I think the dreams that we have as kids, as teenagers, tend to change as we get older, or, some of the kernels of it might be the same, but because of different ways God has led you, they might have had to grow or change into different avenues. And so I just really loved that message that, what I thought I wanted before isn't necessarily what I want anymore, and that's okay. And that's because that's not where I'm being led. I'm being led this direction, and it's actually going to be better than what I previously thought I wanted.
We'll talk about this and much more today. Welcome to a Writer's Day podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Writer's Day. I'm so happy to have you here. I know you have so many podcasts to listen to, so I'm honored that you are taking time out of your busy day to listen to mine, a Writer's Day podcast, which I started for you way back in 2019. That's right, this is season 7 of my podcast, and I'm so excited for all the guests that I have this year, especially today's guest. So you know the drill. Head over to YouTube and subscribe. Head over to Spotify and follow, and shoot me a comment. Let me know what you think of today's episode. And also head over to artbyruth.com to sign up for my newsletter, where you can learn more about my upcoming projects like A Shadow of Hope, my next romantic suspense story that comes out April 14th. You can pre-order it right now. It follows a victim's advocate, Evelyn, who is trying to get this young 12-year-old blind girl to the courthouse to testify against her mother's murderer. But someone is after this young girl. This person does not want her to testify. Will Evelyn get Hope Turner to the courthouse? You'll have to read A Shadow of Hope to find out. So head over to Amazon and pre-order your copy. I'd love to know what you think of this book when it comes out. So always remember to leave authors a review. It really does help us on Amazon. Okay, enough of that. Chelsea Bobulski is here from Haven Publishing to talk about her newest book, A Deal with a Debutante. You may know Chelsea as an author of 2 YA contemporary fantasy novels, but now she's writing no spice historical romance. That's right. So you know the drill. Grab your favorite beverage, a comfortable chair, kick back and relax as we listen to Chelsea talk about her new book. Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm excited to be talking to an author who's new to me. She's with Haven now. This is her book coming out through Haven, a new imprint from Revell. So welcome, Chelsea Bobulski. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
Sure. Yeah, this is exciting. Why don't you tell my listeners a little bit about yourself, and then we'll talk about your amazing book.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm a wife and a mom. That's my first and highest priority underneath serving God. That's my number one, and then my family. But as a writer, I've just been so blessed to be able to publish 6 young adult novels now, with the 7th coming out this fall. And then this new book, A Deal with a Debutante, through Haven, will be my first adult historical romance. It's a no spice, sweet, clean historical romance. And it's been a long writing journey where I've seen God work throughout the way, and just bringing me like the most amazing people to work with in this space over the past, I think it was 2010 that I started pursuing publication as a very serious, something I wanted to do as my career. And my first book came out in 2017. So, so we're going on, 16 years of writing, and it's just been a joy.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. It doesn't happen overnight, does it?
No, it does not.
Requires a lot of patience and waiting on the Lord and a thick skin. You have to have a thick skin.
Yes.
So did you always feel since you were a child that you wanted to be a writer?
I always was a storyteller and always loved stories. I was always drawn to them, whether it was books, movies, TV, anything that had a story, I was there. And but it wasn't until my 3rd grade year, I remember we had an author visit. It was our first ever author visit. And that was the first time I learned that somebody actually wrote these stories, right? They didn't just appear out of nowhere. And I thought that that was the coolest job ever. And I remember that being when I first started thinking that that might be what I want to do someday. And then at the same time, I also was watching a lot of Murder, She Wrote with my grandma. And again, I see this amazing woman who spends her days writing and biking around her small town. And of course, she's solving murders as well, which I wasn't as interested in, but I loved the idea of spending my days writing and biking around town. So I thought that sounds like the perfect job for me.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. I've only spoken to a few authors who knew from a young age that they wanted to be writers. So that is amazing. And
Mhm.
did you have teachers from then on who encouraged you to keep going?
Yes, I had several teachers throughout my journey. One in particular comes to mind in the sixth grade. We had a creative writing project that was supposed to be 5 pages long, just some story we came up with. And I was on page 30, and my teacher said, we should try and get this published. And at the time, she wanted to help me just self-publish it in the way that you could have done in the what would have been the late 90s, early 2000s, which, maybe just get your own little copy of it. And she was just so supportive, though. She really said to me, like, I think this is your gift. And that always stuck with me. And then I also, my stepsister growing up, she was a bit older than me, and she noticed that I also was constantly making up stories, whether I was writing them down or acting them out. And I remember her also saying to me, "You should be a writer someday." And so it's just different
Oh,
voices throughout my life who kind of spoke it to me in a way where I realized, yeah, maybe that is what I'm supposed to do.
oh, I love that. And I'm a former writing teacher, so that just warms my heart because I think sometimes we teachers feel like we're just talking to the air, that we're not
Hmm.
really influencing anyone. So I love to hear that, especially with author visits, because I tend to go to schools around this time of year and speak to the students. So that really means a lot to me that an author came to your school and
Hmm.
inspired you. That is amazing.
Yes, so I actually had one that was the best author visit, and then I had an author visit in high school that actually derailed me for a bit. And ever since
Oh,
then, the way she spoke about it, I realized, okay, if I'm given an opportunity to speak to any writer, but especially young writers, I want to speak about it differently because she came to our high school, and you could choose to go to her talk, and of course I wanted to. And she told all of us, "You're too young to
uh,
write. You don't know enough of the world." You don't have enough experience. You really can't be writers until you've lived, until
uh,
you're in your like 40s, 50s. You just shouldn't even try, basically. And I remember just sitting there and I was so saddened by that. And of course, now I look back on it and think, okay, well, maybe I couldn't have gotten published at 17. I wasn't good enough yet, but I could have at least started trying, and I would have um, honed those skills sooner if I had been encouraged at that age to say, yes, you do have stories. You have lived a lot of life, and um, and she was basically talking about it in the sense of write what you know, and because you haven't lived much, you don't know much, is what she said. But I look back and
oh,
I think I knew a lot at 17, maybe not as much as I know now, but I still could have at least worked on building those skills and
yeah.
yeah, I worked on becoming a better storyteller if I'd been encouraged. So for me, I tell every writer, no matter their age, you absolutely know enough about life to start writing, so please do.
Yeah, I mean, I would have said, oh, so you've never read The Outsiders or
Right,
Diary of Anne Frank or
right.
Aragon? All those books were written by teenagers. It's like,
Yes,
seriously?
exactly, exactly. So that did derail me for a little bit, and then I had to
Oh,
have more experiences with other authors after that to kind of get me back on track and realize, no, okay, I can start pursuing this.
oh, that's heartbreaking. But I mean, I
Mhm.
guess I see what she's saying. It depends on the genre. But if you're going to write dragon books, you don't need to have world experience. In fact, I think sometimes having that youthfulness will help, and a lot of
Yes.
kids read that genre, and so they very much so could write a book about it. Oh, that just breaks my heart. But I think
Yeah.
it's good that you have a good example and then a bad example of how to inspire new writers.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's talk about your new book, A Deal with the Debutante, out from Haven. Tell us about this amazing story.
I would love to. So this story takes place in the Edwardian era, which is the early 1900s. It's a time that I am obsessed with ever since I was young and I saw Titanic, which is in that same era. I just love this time period, and it centers around this situation that was happening where American heiresses, the daughters of these great industry titans, were being sent over to England, usually by their very high-minded mothers, who wanted their daughters to become duchesses and countesses to get these titles that we did not have in America, right? In America, you could make millions and millions of dollars, but you couldn't become royalty. We didn't have that here, and we obviously still don't. So they would go to England. And at the same time, a lot of these gentlemen of the peerage, the dukes, the earls, they were all, not all of them, but a lot of them, their estates were failing, and they needed American money to save their estates. And of course, at the time, this unfortunately did not result in very many happy marriages, since it was very much a marriage of convenience. But I found that such a fascinating time period, and I wanted to write a series that took place there where it would end in happy marriages and happily ever after. And so I started thinking about what sort of um, characters would live in this world. And so A Deal with a Debutante is about my main character, Calliope Hart. She's sent to London by her mother, has no interest in getting married. She just wants to get back to her life in New York as soon as possible. But of course, she's going to meet an Earl, Edward Chase, who falls for her first and works really hard to change her mind.
Ah, okay. Now we see. How old is Calliope?
She's early, she would be 19 or 20. She's just had her coming out season the year before in New York. And so now she's going over to England, which was very common to be, they got married very young.
Yeah.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about what that means, the coming out party. What all does that
Mhm.
mean?
Yeah, so it was, sort of a ritual within high society where it was a way to introduce their daughters once their daughters were of a marrying age. So once you hit is usually 18, you would have your coming out season where you would go to all the balls, all the parties, and they had this in England as well. And you were basically presented to society as a marriageable young lady. And so now you're no longer, wearing your hair down and wearing styles that kind of cover you more. Now you're being presented. And so you have your hair up and different signals within your dress and things to say, okay, I'm a lady who can be married now.
Mm. So Titanic inspired you, and so it inspired Calliope's attitude of not wanting to go. Some American girls listening might be like, "Oh, I wouldn't mind doing that," but it wasn't the life. It wasn't a real glamorous life, was it? And so was Rose's situation on the Titanic kind of an inspiration for you to have Calliope want to reject this kind of life?
It certainly was in the sense of, I think anyone can understand that feeling, even if you haven't experienced it yourself, of how it must feel if you're sort of trapped in a situation that you didn't choose, that other people chose for you, and wanting to escape that. And so in Calliope's situation, it's a little different. With Rose, she's actually engaged to a man that she has no feelings for, and who ends up being very questionable in some of the things he chooses to do on the Titanic. But in Calliope's situation, she just has her life at home in New York. She has no interest in leaving it. Her friends are there. She's even writing articles there for a local newspaper, and she's just been building this life that she really loves. And so to have all that slammed to a halt to go to England, which of course at the time there's no internet, there's no texting, you're leaving everything behind, and there's really no way other than letters, which take weeks to travel back and forth, or, of course, a telegram might be a little quicker, but that's really your only touch point to your home. And so for her, she just has no interest in marrying anybody in England. If she's going to marry, she wants to marry someone in New York where she can keep the life that she's been building for herself there.
That's great. She's a strong-willed woman.
Yes.
But now we have Edward, and he's facing financial ruin. And a lot
Hmm.
of times, men in that situation saw marriage as their only way out of that. So, how are you able to write this character, Edward, yet have him be a little bit more sympathetic to Calliope as well, rather than just this tyrant telling her what to do, kind of what we saw in Titanic, right?
Yes, absolutely. So I think anytime you're writing a sympathetic character, you have to look at their wounds, right?
Mm,
What is their wound and their want that's pushing their goals and what they're trying to accomplish? And for Edward, he's the Earl now because he lost his father 2 years ago. His father passed away unexpectedly, and that has been really hard for him and for his mother. And unfortunately, his father just didn't really have a head for figures and didn't leave them in a great position. And so for Edward, he's been trying to figure out is there another way to accomplish this? And there really isn't. I think there's even a line in the book where he says, short of an act of God, like marriage is my only option. And also looking at the full context of what does this mean? Because it's not just that he's going to lose his home and his land. Estates in England were employers. There were sometimes hundreds of people who would rely on the estate for their own livelihood. So he has servants, gardeners, people who work for him that rely on the income that they get from working for this estate, as well as the surrounding village benefits from the agriculture that comes off of his estate. And so it's really this ecosystem and all these people that he's trying to protect. It's not just his own self-interest. And so he realizes for the good of everyone else, I have to marry somebody. And the way he ends up choosing Calliope is because he looks at his mom, who has organized this ball specifically for him to find an
mm.
American heiress. And he looks at her and is just like, okay, well, if I'm going to do this, just show me which one has the most money. Like, if that's it. And so she points to Calliope. And so he thinks, okay, then she's the answer. But of course, Calliope is not on board. So that it makes for an
Yeah,
interesting first impression between the two of them.
that's great. That's that tension that you want in this kind of a
Mhm.
story. Now, you
Mhm.
mentioned London's high society and how it functions. How much research did you do in developing this setting for your story?
Yeah, the research was so fun. So I am a history major. I majored in history at the Ohio State University, so I already love history. Some of it
Mm,
I already knew a little bit just from previous research and experience, but thankfully, the other show that I love that centers on this time period is Downton Abbey, and that was coming out around the same time that I was writing this, because I actually started writing this over 10 years ago.
mm,
And then took a break because of all the other books that came along. And I believe that was 100% God ordained as well, because he knew, okay, but this book's supposed to come out now with Haven. It wasn't supposed to be finished then. But so because Downton Abbey was such a big sensation, there were way more books and TV documentaries coming out surrounding this time period, as well as the British aristocracy and nobility. And so I just had a wealth of information that I could kind of dive into. And so that was really fun to get to do. And honestly, when it comes to the British peerage, a lot of it's just trying to figure out how do you address a duke versus an earl? And it's
mm.
really interesting. My Calliope kind of struggles with that a bit, is all these different rules to their society, because not only would you not address a duke the same way you would an earl, but you also might address them differently depending on the social situation you're in. And so there's all these rules that as an American, she doesn't really fully understand. And so a lot of times, the British aristocracy, the not so nice people within, might look down their noses at these Americans coming over who don't understand, right? So that
Mm.
was really fun to play with as well.
Oh, that's good. And that gave you a chance to make her kind of awkward with it. So,
Hmm.
even if like the reader is a little awkward with it, they can really relate to Calliope. That's a great idea.
Yeah, well, that's what I love. Because I also love, for example, Regency romances. But typically those are two British characters, because that's in the Jane Austen, time period. And you can still learn a lot about the British aristocracy through reading Regency romances, but you don't often have an American who's going over and is kind of your eyes and ears as the reader. So in this
Mhm.
situation, I could make it, through Calliope's American eyes, the reader also kind of feels understood. Like, okay, I'm also entering this world I don't fully understand, but it's okay. I have Calliope here with me, you know?
Yeah. Now, Calliope remains convinced that Edward only wants her for her fortune. So you have that tension. How did you find the balance? How are you able to balance that sweet romance with that tension and the themes of, her independence and maybe she has some resentment? How are you able to find the balance in all that?
Yeah, first of all, Holy Spirit, because I
Mm,
swear I can't write
hmm
without God. Every writing session, I pray first. I'm like, okay, Lord, you have to give me the word. So it's all God. But I do think that when you have the right mix of characters. And again, within those characters, their strengths, their weaknesses, their wounds, their wants, these different things that make them who they are and what they want. When you throw them together in the right environment, it almost writes itself. And I don't mean to say that it's just easy and it just flows, but a lot of times their personalities will clash, or their desires will clash, but at the same time, they're both also noticing things about the other that they'd rather not, especially Calliope. When she notices how handsome he is, she thinks, no, no, that's not what I'm thinking about. I need to get that out of my mind because it doesn't matter, and, things like that. So it's really fun to play with those things. Yeah.
As Christian authors, we want to put those themes of hope in our stories and other themes too. So, what do you hope readers take away from A Deal with the Debutante?
I love this question, and it's so interesting because when I started writing it, I really truly just started writing it just because I enjoyed the time period, and it was just a fun idea. And the themes kind of came as I wrote, which for me tends to be the case. And I realized as I wrote the end that the deepest theme of this book is actually encapsulated in a quote in the book as well, where a character says, a dream that has been allowed to change is not the same thing as a dream deferred. And I really felt that because, I think the dreams that we have as kids, as teenagers, tend to change as we get older, or, some of the kernels of it might be the same, but because of different ways God has led you, they might have had to grow or change into different avenues. And so I just really loved that message that, what I thought I wanted before isn't necessarily what I want anymore, and that's okay. And that's because that's not where I'm being led. I'm being led this direction, and it's actually going to be better than what I previously thought I wanted.
Oh, that's so true.
Mhm.
I love that because I run into that too. I'll have like a really neat murder mystery suspense story, and I can hardly wait to write it. And I start writing it, and then the Lord will just, tug on my heart about something else that, go deeper, make it more about this, and give hope
Mhm.
to your readers. So I think that is important that we Christian authors do that. We can write these various genres, but we should always have that light and hope in our stories that readers walk away thinking this was different than a general fiction that I read.
Yes, absolutely. When God's in it, he always will use it that way. And it's just totally like we're just the vessel, right? And it's such an
Exactly.
honor. Yeah, it's such an honor that he will write through us in that way and touch people's hearts in ways that we never expected.
Yeah, and you're right. It doesn't mean it just flows from our fingertips and it's just so easy. No, we still have the obstacles and the things that get in our way.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, so A Deal with a Debutante releases in April?
Yes, April 7th.
Great. So that means, listeners, it's available for pre-order right now. So head over to Amazon and pre-order your copy. And also, I'm sure Baker Publishing has a deal.
Yes, they do. Right now, my understanding is if you pre-order through Baker Bookhouse, it's 40% off, and you also get really fun goodies. There's a really cute sticker. It comes with the oh, I'm blanking on what it's called. The
The
paper,
plate, the
the book
boilerplate.
plate. Yes,
Yeah, the
thank you.
plate.
The
Yeah, book
signed
plate.
book plate and a really cute bookmark. So not only do you get 40% off going through them, but you also get these really fun goodies as well.
Very nice. So head over to Baker Bookhouse, is it?
Yes. Mhm.
Awesome. And pre-order your copy now. And so what's coming next for you in 2026?
Well, right now I'm currently working on book two of this series. It's going to be a three-book series, and so I'm working on that. Those characters are really fun to write, but also sometimes very frustrating, just because sometimes I'm not entirely sure where they're going with something, and so I just have to see where they're going. So I'm working on book two now, and I also have the sequel to my debut young adult novel, The Wood, which came out in 2017. The sequel is finally coming out this fall. So for all my readers who have been waiting a very long time for that sequel, it's coming out this fall through Quill and Flame Publishers.
Oh, great. I'm sure they're thrilled to hear that.
Yes.
And speaking of your readers, how can they connect with you?
Yeah, so I do have a website, chelseabobulski.com, but I don't update it well. It's not great. I'm more on Instagram. I'm on Instagram all the time. So my Instagram handle is at Chelsea Bobulski, spelled ChelseaBobulski. And I also have a Facebook author page that's the same, at Chelsea Bobulski.
Oh, terrific. And listeners, you can also follow her on Amazon. So that way, when her next book comes out, you'll automatically be notified via email. I love that about following Amazon authors.
Yeah.
So yeah, head over to chelseabobulski.com and sign up for her newsletter, and head over to Instagram so you can follow her and see what she's up to. Chelsea, this has been so much fun talking about A Deal with the Debutante and getting to know you. And wow, I just wish you the best, of luck this year with your new releases.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
That was so fun to listen to Chelsea Bobulski talk about her newest book, A Deal with the Debutante, from Haven. That's right, the imprint from Revell Publishing. So head over and pre-order your copy on Amazon, and head over to her website to sign up for her newsletter, and check her out over at Instagram to see what's coming next down the road. I hope that you've been encouraged by Chelsea's story, how she never gave up. It took a long time between the time she wrote her book and the time it finally came out. She overcame obstacles and did not let that one teacher derail her for too long. So you don't let things derail you either. Keep going. Keep writing your story. It matters. Someone out there needs to read your story. And until next time, thanks for listening. God bless.